Jurassic World Rebirth is now in theaters, and in honor of this highly anticipated event, this is my full review of the movie, including a summary of the plot. So this is your official warning. Major spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the movie yet, and you care about spoilers, this is your chance to click away from the video. With that being said, I'll jump into my overall rating of the movie. If you haven't seen my non-spoiler review yet, you can go watch that for my breakdown of the different elements of the movie, and you'll understand how I came to the conclusion of giving this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It was a lot of fun, and it was lacking in certain areas, mainly in the characters and the plot, but it felt pretty on par with the rest of the series. And it was better than Dominion, which isn't really a high bar, but in my personal opinion, I even liked it better than Fallen Kingdom. And I might even go as far as to say I liked it better than Jurassic Park 3 as well. This is officially my fourth favorite in the franchise, behind Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, and The Lost World. This movie starts with an amazing opening sequence, at least as good as Fallen Kingdom, if not better. It shows us a nice classic 17 years ago subtitle before showing a group of InGen scientists working in a laboratory located on the island the movie takes place in, Isle St. Hubert. There are multiple test chambers with mutated experiment dinosaurs, such as the Mutodons and two-headed raptors. Then it shows us the D-Rex cage, and a bunch of people going into it to run some tests. Shortly after, a Snickers wrapper gets sucked into the door mechanism and somehow short-circuits the wiring, causing a power outage that interferes with the door systems and ultimately letting the creature free. The scientists run back to the safe room, and they reboot the emergency doors, which keeps the D-Rex out of the actual lab. But then, of course, they turn around to see that one person got left behind, per usual. But to my surprise, the characters are actually smart for once, and they decided not to open the door, knowing the D-Rex would then be able to get inside. I'm sure you've already guessed, but the guy who got left behind did not survive. He's scooped up by the D-Rex and pulled away into a bunch of fog, where he's then crushed into pieces. Probably the most brutal opening scene in the franchise, and it sets a disturbing mood for the rest of the movie. The opening movie title plays, and the first act of the movie establishes the characters and their ultimate goal. It also explains that in the recent years after Dominion, the dinosaurs have slowly died off due to improper living conditions with the climate of the Earth being the way it is. There's only a few species left, and most of them are located in isolated areas around the equator where the climate is more tropical and better suited for the animals. It also shows us a scene where cranes are struggling to lift dying Brachiosaurus out of the New York City road. It has a solid first act, a little boring, but it honestly feels like what the start of Dominion could have been. Before the second act begins, we're introduced to the Delgado family, whose sailboat gets attacked by the Mosasaurus, about 20 miles from the island. The family consists of Ruben Delgado, the father, daughters Bella and Teresa's boyfriend Xavier. Once the second act starts, this family gets rescued by the team heading to the island, and they all get attacked together by the Mosa and Spinos. It's a really good scene that lasts about 25 minutes, and it has a lot of really crazy action sequences, including the first 2 deaths of the team. I will say, before the first act even ended, I already knew exactly who was going to die, and who was going to make it to the end of the movie. The characters are extremely predictable, and their deaths are also predictable. The Spinosaurs are unfortunately really underutilized and are only shown briefly, without their full bodies ever really being on screen. There is a scene of one Spino getting up from a nap and walking off the beach into the water, but after this scene, the Spinos are never shown again in the entire movie. I love their designs, however, and it's just so nice seeing them again in live action after 24 years since Jurassic Park 3. The characters gather what little they can from the boat crash, and they head off into the jungle to search for InGen's old village where they did most of their work. Apparently it ran using geothermal power and was still operational. On the way to the village, the characters find a massive herd of titanosaurs, and they're able to get the second DNA sample they need for their mission. It's a really great scene that reminded me of the Brachiosaurus scene from Jurassic Park. The visuals are incredible, and the dinosaurs look great, and they really feel alive in their habitat. It's such a good calm before the storm type of scene. Then there's the storm. During the boat crash, the Delgado family got separated from the rest of the team, and both groups head to the village using different routes. And I have to say, I personally enjoyed the Delgado's journey a little bit more than the mission teams. The dad is a likable character who has good survival skills, and the daughter's boyfriend Xavier is one of the better characters of the movie. He has a comedic delivery in almost every line that makes it hard to tell whether he's being serious or not. But he's definitely the better comedic relief, and probably the only character in the movie that has a somewhat interesting character arc, if you can even really call it that. The younger daughter, Bella, is kind of annoying, and she becomes obsessed with the dinosaur pet of the movie, Dolores the Aqualops. The older daughter, Teresa, is kind of just a basic teenage character, kind of bratty, but she ends up helping a bit later in the movie. The Delgado's journey contains the one very, very short scene with velociraptors, but they are very quickly wiped out by the Mutodons. This is a lower point of the movie for me because I was excited to see the raptors' new design, but they were shown in the background, blurry, in the night. You could hardly tell that they were any different from any of the previous raptors, and you definitely couldn't see any of the new colors. And their short screen time was very disappointing. The whole "please tell me those aren't raptors" line from the trailers never actually happens in the movie. But what comes after is such a redeeming moment it saves the entire Delgado semi-plot. David Koepp's version of the raft scene from the original book is easily the best scene of the whole movie. It's extremely tense, one of the few scenes that had me clutching the armrest in the theater. The Rex is an absolute beefcake. It's without a doubt the biggest and coolest looking Rex in the franchise, and the way it dives into the water to chase the raft made my hair stand up. The whole sequence is a 10 out of 10. However, I am disappointed that the Rex never showed up again. The perspectives switch back to the mission team, and there's a bit of forced character development that doesn't even really feel like development. It's hard to care about any of the characters' backstories, and it just doesn't work with so many different main characters. They find the Quetzalcoatlus nest, and they rappel down a cliff to get it, which is another visually amazing scene, showing off the lush jungles and cliffs in the background. The whole scene is enjoyable, with a little bit of bonding between Zora and Henry. They almost finish collecting the DNA from an egg, but are interrupted when the adult comes back and starts defending the nest. One of the coolest deaths in the entire Jurassic franchise happens in this scene, and it's engraved into my brain with gold ink. My jaw was on the floor. It was just about as good as Zara's death in Jurassic World. After that scene, they have all 3 DNA samples and are ready to leave the island, so they head to the village to send a signal when they meet up with the Delgados again, and thus begins the final act of the movie. I think. Like I said in my other review, it was hard to tell what was supposed to be the climax and what wasn't. In a turn of events that absolutely nobody could have ever predicted, the rich guy Martin Krebs turns out to be a bad guy who wants everyone's money. Surprise, surprise. He pulls a gun on everyone and then handcuffs the DNA case to his arm for safekeeping. Immediately after, the group gets ambushed by Mutodons after the village power automatically boots back up in just the convenient time to alert everything in a 6-mile radius that they were there. Overall, I really enjoyed the Mutodon scene, but just like the Spinos, they were underutilized. They didn't hurt anyone, and they just kinda aimlessly ran around like chickens. They couldn't even break through a glass door. Zora even manages to empty a mag into one of them, which is one of the only scenes in the entire live-action franchise where the characters actually manage to kill the creature chasing them. using something other than other dinosaurs. The characters manage to escape for a second, but then the D-Rex decides to finally join the party an hour and 40 minutes into the movie. Don't get me wrong, I liked having more screen time to focus on non-mutant, non-hybrid dinosaurs like the Rex and the Spinos, and having longer scenes for the Mosa and the Quetzalcoatlus, because that's been the flaw of recent Jurassic content, focusing too much on genetic experiments rather than actual dinosaurs. But it also just kind of felt weird that all of a sudden he was just there, this massive creature that was about twice the size of the Indominus, and it just showed up out of nowhere. A lot happens in the finale of the movie, and Martin Krebs gets the coolest death in the movie after he gets literally bitten in half by the D-Rex, and then little pieces of him fall all over the place, including the hand holding the DNA case. And then the rescue helicopter also gets taken out by the D-Rex before the surviving characters are able to distract the creature and escape on a boat that was left by InGen. They then, in an iconic Jurassic Park ending, they sail off across the seas into the sunset and the credits roll. The movie was very fun, and I'm glad that the trailers were somewhat misleading because it added a little bit more surprise to scenes that either had crazy twists or that were just different. My favorite scenes were the Mosasaurus boat scene and the T-Rex raft scene, but there's a lot of cool moments and it was a great redeeming sequel to the recent Jurassic World movies. It wasn't perfect, and it's not quite worthy of top 3 in the franchise, but it wasn't a disappointment, and I'm overall satisfied with how it turned out. Do you guys agree with my ranking? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and/or subscribing, and check out my profile to vote for which Jurassic movie is your favorite.